Hey guys, welcome back to Reverse 1999. In today's video, we're going to do an early game guide for Dikke because we are all getting a free copy of her. If you started at the global launch, you will have it after the next daily reset after I upload this video. This is my alt account, so we don't have it yet, but I pulled her anyway and I've been using her. So let's get into it. In this video, we're going to cover her skills, insights, stat priority, Psychubes, teams and playstyle, and whether or not you should build her. I'll leave timestamps in the description as well, so you guys can bounce around. The first one I'm going to go through is should you build her. It's going to be very niche on every person's account, but in general, if you already have 2 healers built, then I probably wouldn't stress about building her. Obviously, it's a game, you want to have fun. If you just love Dikke, and I'm pretty sure that's how we say her name, but if you just love her, then go ahead and build her. That's it. But in practicality, if you already have 2 healers built, then I wouldn't stress too much about building her in your first 6 units, because I think your first 6 units want to comprise of 2 damage dealers, 2 healers, and 2 supports. Yes, that is very generalistic, and there are exceptions to this, of course. You got Eternity solo runs and stuff like that. But in general, I feel like you want to get your first 6 units for your first 2 teams when we start looking into competing in Limbo, where you need 2 teams. So if you already have 2 healers built, I wouldn't stress. If you only have 1 healer and you need another healer, I think she is a fantastic option. Otherwise, I think she's a great 7th or 8th unit to put in to build, because if we look at her as a sub unit, when one of your units die and she comes in, she can cover both things. She can quickly get a heal off to help your teammates, and normally if one unit dies, the rest of yours are going to be pretty low, and then she's going to be able to do a nice chunky heal. On the other hand, if one of your teammates dies and you want to just finish off an enemy, she also has damage. So I think she's a great sub unit, so a great unit to build as your 7th or 8th unit. But on top of that, if the enemy is weak to beast units, you can sub out one of your other healers for her, and then you can get that added damage. So I think she's a great unit to build. Once again, if you have 2 healers built, I wouldn't build her until maybe your 7th or 8th unit, or maybe even further down the line, depending on what you've pulled. So that is the first bit. Now, let's get into her skills. So and then I want to compare her healing to some other characters as well. So her first card is just a single target attack, but when it goes to 2 or 3, it does get ignored defense damage. The Genesis damage means ignore defense. So this one, you ideally want to use it at 2. There are situations in which I will dump a single 1-star one, maybe just to get her up to having her ultimate the next turn or something like that. But in general, it's nice to get the extra ignore defense damage. Then we go on to her heal. Now, her heal does more on allies below 50% health. Kind of similar healing in principle to what Balloon Party does, because Balloon Party heals based on missing HP, whereas this is based on attack, but it does more when they're below 50%, so they both are more efficient heals when allies are at low health. But you can't really compare raw numbers, because she scales with attack, so the more investment you have in Dikke, the better she's going to be in comparison to Balloon Party. Balloon Party has, and then they both have damage. Balloon Party has her counter damage, whereas Dikke has her just raw front-loaded damage. I think these two are fairly similar in that they're both bring pressure, but also bring the healing. But Dikke is definitely more front-loaded than the Balloon Party, and the Balloon Party just feels a little bit more defensive. So that is that. But the one I wanted to compare her to is La Source, because unless you pull the Medicine Pocket or something like that, these are the options you're looking at. The other one is obviously going to be dude, I forgot no Poison Chick. You guys know the one. Dude, how have I Sotheby? So the other one's Sotheby, but she really sucks until I3 in my opinion anyway, and she's a bit tricky, and if you've pulled her for future investment. I have Sotheby on my other account, and I won't build Dikke because I will just use Sotheby and just struggle through until she gets to a good point, which is at I3 with her Psychube and stuff like that, and then obviously 1.2 poison at her. So I wanted to compare her to La Source. So La Source has 80, 120, and 200. So 80, 120, and 200 on the multipliers. Dikke has 60, 90, and 150. However, when you include her bonuses, she actually goes higher. So in general, if an ally is above 50%, her healing is lower than La Source. Whereas if an ally is below 50%, her healing is bigger than Lesource. That's basically the basic comparison you can look to. Then we have her ultimate. Now, she doesn't have any supportive capabilities, kind of like Lesource having the Moxie down for enemies, but she has damage. But this one also has a Purify, so she cleanses herself, gives herself immunity, then deals 400% mental damage plus 100% ignore defense damage, which this is a really nice damaging attack. So you get some really solid multipliers out of this, along with the healing capabilities that she has in the rest of her kit. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is, because of this cleanse, make sure if you have any debuffs on you, you are definitely using this before you heal, depending on the situation. Sometimes it doesn't time out. But yeah, if you can cleanse like maybe healing reductions and stuff like that, it is only a single target cleanse for her, but you can always go ahead and do that, and then get the bigger heal off. If she's got an attack break, you can get the bigger damage off with her attack. The ult cleanse can be quite useful. So moving on from that, we're going to look at her insights. Her insights aren't crazy. The attack percent is really nice at Insight 2 because it helps her healing and helps her damage. But then she's fairly selfish with her insights on Insight 1 and 3. Basically, it becomes when she has a higher HP percentage than the enemy and she doesn't attack, it's going to have extra 15% attack. And if she is below the HP percentage of the enemy when she's attacking them, she's going to get extra leech. So self-sustain in that. So that's pretty much what it is. Nothing like insanely crazy in the insights, but you know, obviously increasing your insights increases your stats, and that's going to be good, which leads me on to the next thing with his stat, which is stat priority. Now obviously I'm only like 2.5 days into my account, so I haven't done my resonate very high, but in general in this early game stage I would focus just on attack, because basically it's just going to increase her damage and her healing. You're not playing around with crit values this early in the game or anything like that, so I think attack is perfectly fine. Now I want to look at Psychubes. Now for Psychubes, I think you don't want to be getting a Psychube specifically for her. You want to be prioritizing your main damage dealers and then just putting the leftovers on her in this early game stage. Now, I really do like Laughter and Laughter. It's one of the free ones we get. I don't recommend buying 5 stars, but in the early game, you get this one for free through the, you know, progression missions. It gives you damage reduction, which is nice for her because obviously she's not going to be your hyper carry. I do think there is a situation to be made for an argument of a hyper carry Dikke, but that is not what most people are going to be doing, so I'm not going to talk about that now. But this one's really nice. You get damage mitigation. You know, she's not going to be as heavily invested as your main damage dealer, so the mitigation's nice, and she also gets that healing done increased, which is really nice. So this one, I think is just a good splashable one to put on your healers early game until you pick up a 6-star healing one. You can also use Footloose as well. I mean, this does come with the extra ultimate might, which isn't too bad. Attacks the target's HP is above 50%, damage is about plus 8%. This one's fairly generic. You can slap this on her too, depending on what else is on your team, because we get that one for free as well. As for the 6-star ones, I really like the Brave New World. We get the Ultimate Might, and then after it, we're going to get the Incantation Might. It's just an all-round balanced one. However, most people who pick this up are using it on their main DPS, so that is a thing. However, you know, maybe you picked up Brave New World and Hopscotch, and you're using Hopscotch on something like, what's her face? Centurion. Well, then Brave New World would go on it. Now, this one isn't as good in my opinion for it, but it's still okay to put on her. But in the early game stages, you know, your main DPS is going to probably be landing most of the kills. You can time it to get Dikke to kill enemies as well, but in general, I like the Brave New World more. And the other option is, for instance, on my other account, if I was building a Dikke, I would just slap this on because I'm picking this up for my Sotheby. And you know, just healing done. We don't get the amplification, but we get healing done, which is still not too bad, has decent stats compared to a 5-star, so you can slap that on as well. She's pretty flexible because she's not going to be the main unit in your team at this stage when most people are looking to use her as just a healer while you're still in that early game phase. You can flex around. I think the go-to is going to be Laughter and Laughter, but if you've got a spare Brave New World or Inquisitive Deer, you can feel free to put that on depending on what else is being used in your teams. So next up, I wanted to go ahead and look at teams and playstyles. So let's just jump into a stage here. No, not that one. This one. Let's jump into this so I can look at my team formation. So for teams, this is the team I'm currently running, but it's not going to be the team I use when I go into 2 teams, and I'll show you the more budget version. But essentially in this one, we have Dikke, who is the healer / sub DPS. We've got Centurion, who's obviously my main DPS, And then we've got Ann Lee, who is my buffer. Now, the two buffers I like most in teams with Dikke are Ann Lee and Sonetto. The reason being that they both provide offensive pressure, because we're going to have a damage dealer and a sub damage dealer with Dikke, so you want to increase their damage, but also they provide defensive pressure with the damage mitigation from their card. So if we go ahead and we look here, basically they have the same ability. This one is going to be damage dealt and damage taken down. So damage dealt up, damage taken down. Damage dealt up, damage taken down. This is really nice. It allows you to play on both sides of it, which is offensive pressure, but also allows you to feather that 50% mark with Dikke to not get one shot as easily. So you can sort of use that damage mitigation to feel safer about waiting till below 50% before proccing your heal. So I really like those two. So if we were looking at a budget team for this, it would simply be like this. And then you just put whatever damage dealer you have. Now, the team I'm working towards on my account, based on the characters I have, is going to be Regulus in this position. I think it works pretty well in this comp because we have Regulus who acts every second turn. So then we can still have damage that we can output in between Regulus's attack turns. But then we also have the healing, we have the buffing, we have the lockout with Sonetto. We have a lot of options in this type of team to go ahead and play with. So I think this is really solid, but you can really replace this with any damage dealer. Now, the one supportive unit I would avoid is Beacon Bloom, because Beacon Bloom is used for amplifying reality damage, whereas over here we have the mental damage. So that is the one I would avoid, even though Beacon Bloom is a great supportive character. We don't quite have the synergy in that one. But with this team, with Sonetto and Dikke, who are both free units that everyone will have, you can sub in just about any damage dealing unit that you've picked up, and you'll be pretty safe to go ahead like that. And that would be my base team recommendations for her at this stage. So that's my roundup for Dikke. Honestly, one of the coolest arts in the game, in my opinion. This thing looks absolutely savage. I just wish she used the Panther more in her attacks. But once again, to build her, if you got two healers built, you can probably bench her for now. Build her maybe as a 7th or 8th unit, but if you don't have two healers and you need another one, I think she's a fantastic option in general. But also, this was the first like character guide we've done. If you guys do have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to take as much feedback as possible. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.